You ever wonder, what if the rules that build a proton are basically the same rules that build a thought? I know, it sounds pretty out there, but today we're exploring this incredible, stunningly similar blueprint for reality that shows up in two places you would never expect to see together: modern particle physics and ancient Buddhist philosophy. Let's see just how deep this rabbit hole goes.
So yeah, let's just get right to it. What on earth could a subatomic particle, the stuff of supercolliders and quantum mechanics, possibly have in common with a fleeting thought that just pops into your head? On the surface, absolutely nothing. But as we're about to see, the answer might just be, well, everything.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the two big architectures themselves. Then, we'll dive into three core rules they seem to share: a rule about exclusion, a logic for how things interact, and, this is the really cool part, how they both create an illusion of solidity. And finally, we'll ask the big question: what does it all mean if they really do share a blueprint?
So, let's get our two main players on the stage. On one side, we have the fundamental grammar of the universe, and on the other, the fundamental grammar of the mind.
So you've got the standard model of physics, our best map for breaking all of matter down into its tiniest, most fundamental parts. And then you have the Buddhist Abhidhamma, this ancient system that does the exact same thing, but for our conscious experience. It deconstructs everything we feel and think into the briefest possible moments of awareness, you see? Both are on a quest to find the ultimate, irreducible building blocks of their world.
Okay, let's start with our first mind-blowing connection. It's a fundamental rule in both systems that stops everything from dissolving into chaos. It's the reason anything has structure in the first place.
In the physical world, the bricks of everything we think of as solid, from the phone in your hand to distant galaxies, are made of particles called fermions. We're talking quarks, electrons, the basics. They are quite literally the substance of reality.
Now, these little guys have to obey a really strict law, the Pauli exclusion principle. Think of it like a cosmic no trespassing rule. Two identical fermions just can't be in the exact same spot with the exact same properties. And that simple rule is the reason your hand doesn't pass right through the wall. It's the fundamental reason why matter takes up space. Okay, now let's jump over to the mind. The Abhidhamma says that our consciousness isn't some smooth, continuous river. It's more like a movie reel, a series of incredibly fast individual frames of awareness. And each one of those frames, each single moment of knowing something, is called a citta.
And here's the kicker. These cittas have their own exclusion principle. It's called the law of citta niyama, and it's so simple. You can only have one moment of consciousness, one citta, at a time. I mean, it feels like we're multitasking, right? But what's really happening is our mind is just switching frames, seeing, then hearing, then thinking, at an unbelievable speed. At the deepest level, it's always one thing at a time.
So here it is, our first huge connection. For matter, the exclusion of fermions creates structure in space, and for the mind, the exclusion of cittas creates structure in time, that familiar one thought after another flow of our experience. Both systems are built on a simple foundational rule, one at a time.
Okay, so let's move on to the next pillar. If fermions and cittas are the bricks, then what's the mortar? What holds them all together and gives them their character? What are the forces that connect everything?
In physics, the mortar is a different kind of particle called a boson. Now, these aren't the bricks of matter, they're the messengers, they're the force carriers. Particles like photons and gluons are constantly zipping between the fermions, telling them how to interact with each other. And here's the critical difference. Bosons are super social. They do not care about the exclusion principle. Any number of them can just pile into the exact same state at the same time. That's actually how you get something as powerful as a laser beam. It's just countless photons, all acting in perfect unison. So what's the mental equivalent? They're called Cetasikas. These aren't the moments of consciousness themselves, but they're all the mental factors that arise with a moment of consciousness, to give it a specific flavor. We're talking about things like feeling, intention, focus, even greed or wisdom. And just like bosons, many different Cetasikas can all pile into a single moment of awareness. Think about the feeling of anger. It's not just one thing, is it? It's a moment of awareness that's colored by a whole cocktail of mental factors, like aversion, maybe some restlessness, an unpleasant feeling, all coexisting in that one single instant. So you see the parallel? In both systems, the basic units don't just exist in a vacuum. In physics, matter particles are defined by how they interact with force particles.
And in the mind, a moment of awareness is defined by all the mental factors that color it. The underlying logic is just stunningly similar.
All right, we've got our exclusive bricks and our social connective mortar. Now for what I think is the most profound part. How do all these fleeting, fundamental little events combine to create the stable, solid objects we perceive all around us?
Let's think about a proton. It's a core piece of every atom in the universe. We tend to picture it as a tiny, solid little ball. But in reality, it's a composite particle called a hadron. And inside, it is anything but solid. It's this chaotic, incredibly dynamic storm of quarks being yanked around and held together by a powerful sea of gluons.
It's really a fascinating process. You start with the fundamental bricks, the quarks. You add the binding mortar, the gluons. And out of that incredibly fast, energetic chaos, something emerges that, from the outside, looks and acts like a single stable thing.
Well, get this. The exact same logic applies to the mind. What feels like a single, simple thought, like, say, recognizing a friend's face, it isn't just one event. It's a cognitive process, a lightning-fast circuit of many individual mind moments, each with its own bundle of mental factors, all firing in a very specific, structured sequence.
And this brings us to the really mind-bending conclusion. A proton appears solid, but it's really an emergent property of a rapid underlying process. And the self, our sense of being a solid, continuous person, it appears solid, but it's also just an emergent property of a rapid cognitive process. In both worlds, the most solid things we perceive are actually illusions, built from a constant flux of fleeting events.
So now that we've built this bridge, let's just step back for a second and look at the whole structure. What does it actually mean if the blueprints for matter and mind have these deep, almost uncanny structural similarities?
Let's just lay it all out one more time. In both physics and the mind, you have a fundamental unit that's exclusive, the fermion and the citta. You have a social mediator that allows for interaction, the boson and the Cetasika. And the stable things we perceive, like a proton or even our own personality, are actually composite entities that emerge from the rapid dance of these fundamentals. The parallel is it's right there.
This leaves us with a final, really profound question. Look, the point here isn't to say that our thoughts are made of quarks or that particles are somehow conscious. It's to point out that these two vast systems, matter and mind, seem to be built using the exact same architectural principles. So if the universe and the mind follow the same fundamental blueprint, what is reality, at its deepest level, truly made of?